California wine get so sweet? Hi, I'm Bee, a lover of wine and an amateur student of wine. In another video, we found why California wine is so sweet. It's because that's what Americans want. But in this video, we're going to discuss how California wine becomes so sweet, and it's not by adding sugar. If sugar is added to grapes after they're picked, it's called chaptalization, named after a French scientist, Monsieur Chaptal, many years ago. Chaptalization is necessary in places like Champagne, where the climate is often too cold to fully ripen the grapes in colder years. Chaptalization is not usually done to sweeten wine, but to add the sugar that would have developed if the grapes had had a chance to fully ripen. The wine produced in cold climates might not have adequate sugar to turn into the proper amount of alcohol without chaptalization. Chaptalization is illegal in California for a very, very good reason. It's not at all necessary in that warm climate. The grapes will ripen on their own. Wine grapes tend to grow only between the 30th and 50th parallel in both the northern and southern hemispheres. The red band on the map shows the colder part of the wine growing area where chaptalization is sometimes needed. Almost all of California is in the warmer half of the grape growing band around the world. They don't have a problem ripening grapes in California, so chaptalization is properly illegal there. Since they're not allowed to add sugar to California wine, how do they get it so sweet? In this video, we're discussing 4 different ways that they sweeten California wine without adding sugar. The warm climate of California produces more fully ripe grapes. They don't need to add sugar to sweeten the grapes or to provide adequate alcohol. The climate does it for them. Unripe fruit tends to contain a lot of acid. As the fruit ripens, the acid turns to sugar. Inexpensive California wine can be flabby tasting and dull because too much acid was converted to sugar in the warm climate. But some of the better producers in California have 2 techniques to maintain adequate acid in their wine in spite of the warmer climate. A producer can go through the vineyard several times. One time picking unripe grapes that will have plenty of acid, then later picking fully ripe grapes that have the sugar. Each of these different passes through the vineyard is called a tree. The other technique of some of the better California producers is to grow hens and chickens clones, called mirandage, from the original French word. These clusters have some larger, fully ripe grapes, while other smaller grapes in the same bunch have plenty of acid because they aren't yet ripe. While the better California producers work to keep the warm climate from ruining their wine, the mass manufacturers are glad to have too much sugar in their wine. After all, Americans want sweeter wine. The second way California wine is sweetened is by waiting too long to pick the grapes. In California, for the under $20 wines and many more expensive ones, the grapes are allowed to hang on the vines too long. There's an ideal time to pick fruit, when it still has adequate acid, but some of the acid has turned to sugar, and there's a balance between the acid and the sugar. Most California wine manufacturers push the grape growers to let the fruit hang far too long because so many Americans want sweet wine. There's now controversy between growers and manufacturers in California because the grapes lose some weight when they cook too long in the hot sun. So the growers lose money by waiting too long to pick, at the insistence of the manufacturers. This problem of grapes hanging too long makes so much California wine taste flabby, that is, without adequate acid. However, California often manufactures their cheap wines artificially instead of producing them naturally. So they have an option of adding acid to improve the taste when the grapes were allowed to hang too long. The third way the California wine manufacturers make their wine so sweet is their dirty little secret: mega purple and similar additives. Although it's illegal to add sugar to wine in California, it's unfortunately legal to add concentrated grape juice, and that's mega purple and similar additives that sweeten the wine. These additives are similar to concentrated frozen grape juice, except they're much, much more concentrated. No manufacturer ever admits to the addition of mega purple. Since they don't have to list the ingredients in wine, inexpensive California wine often contains their most egregious additive, mega purple and similar additives to darken and sweeten the wine. They claim they're using mega purple and similar additives to change the color of wine. But at 62% sugar, they're using it primarily to add sweetener to the wine. Most experts believe that most of the under $20 California wines have mega purple or a similar additive. And many people believe that even $100 California wines sometimes have these additives. When used very heavily, many people feel that mega purple can leave stains on the wine glass and sometimes on your teeth. A fourth way to sweeten wine is to add in some grapes that are naturally sweet. For instance, Joe Wagner, originally of Camus, added to his Miami brand Pinot Noir some Riesling and some Gewürztraminer, which are naturally sweet wines. So we've discussed 4 ways to sweeten wine without adding any sugar. The warm climate of California does it naturally. They have a habit of letting grapes hang on the vine too long in order to develop more sugar. Mega purple and similar additives have a lot of sugar, and they sometimes blend in some naturally sweet grapes into grapes that are usually dry. These Let's Discover Wine videos sometimes have a short quiz at the end to help us remember key points. What do you call the addition of sugar to grapes? Mirandage or millerandage or chaptalization? Which of these happens to grapes when they hang on the vine too long? Sugar turns to acid or acid turns to sugar? What's the name of California's most famous dirty little secret additive that increases sweetness in wine? Mega purple or mirandage? How does California's warm climate affect the production of sugar in wine? The warm climate produces more sugar, or the warm climate produces less sugar? What do you call hens and chickens' grape clones that help to keep acid in wine? Chaptalization or mirandage or millerandage? What does it mean when a wine is called flabby? Too much acid? Too little acid? What do you call going through a vineyard several times, picking grapes each time? Tree or trip? And now for Final Jeopardy. Why is chaptalization illegal in California? Because the climate's too cold to ripen grapes, or the climate is warm enough to ripen grapes?